Well, thank you, Bill Martin. And man, love hearing those numbers and the success that people are having at Equus. And it really, that's what we want to talk about today is what do I have to do to start winning at a higher level at Equus Financial and really looking at your business, really maybe from a little bit of a different perspective. And, Barry and I and Bill have been talking over the last week or so and saying, man, what are some of the common denominators amongst the people at Equus that are just killing it week after week, making a ton of money here? And I'll tell you, if you look at the lead map, guys, if you've looked at it over the weekend, we have got leads absolutely pouring in all across the country right now. And now's the time, man. Strike when the iron is hot to go out there, make a ton of money in the business. And I'll tell you, those of you that are builders, man, what a better time to set yourself on fire and go out there, write a ton of production, and to bring in new people. So the guests that I have on today, we've got a lot to cover, and I'm certainly going to have some comments after each one of them talk. But everybody that's on today, I had a discussion with them over the weekend, and really the discussion was centered around, hey, what do you invest? Like, I don't really care how many appointments you run every week, and I'm really not so much worried about the premium, but can you tell me like what you're investing on a weekly basis in leads? And I wasn't surprised at all when I had a talk with Deanna, Brandon, and David Crocker, because you can look at the numbers and go, man, I know what they're investing in leads each and every week. And I think about how many people at Equus, you look at the number of leads that we have, and you've got an insurance license, man, you should be out there making a ton of money, especially now with the leads coming in the way they are with the new life leads that we have. They're $11, man, for you to go out, buy 550 or $1,000 worth of those a week and to be able to go out there and make a ton of money. But David Crocker, I ran some numbers just to share with all of you that are on today. David Crocker so far year to date. So there's been about 11 weeks this year. As of this morning, David Crocker is averaging $10,952 a week in submitted premium, over $40,000 a month in production that's coming in. And it's interesting, when I was talking with Dave, and he'll share some of this, is how fearful he was when he first started to invest in leads, right? And those of you that are around a while, once you believe in yourself, once you believe in the Equus opportunity, I don't know how you don't believe. You see all these numbers scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. We have so many people winning, and they're winning every single week. So I want the message to be today for so many of you to listen carefully to what each of them have to share, right? They struggled with, they had the same struggles you did, but they made a decision to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to invest at a high level into the lead program every week. And I'm going to share some stats with you guys a little bit later in the call. But David Crocker, I'm going to toss it over to you, my friend, and share with the Equus Nation.
Good morning, Rob. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm peachy. I'm happy. Happy Monday, and welcome. Greetings from the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I sat at this very desk. Goodness, it was probably January of 2018. I had my license for about 3 months. I had been working old leads, some old D leads and C leads, and Dick Sylvester was training me on how to call on those. And I finally decided maybe I'm going to try A leads. And I'm not kidding you. I sat at this very chair and I put one A lead in my Opt shopping cart, $45, and my hands were shaking. And I'm like, I'm going to spend $45 for a piece of paper. And then I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I deleted it out of my shopping cart, and I waited the 10 or 15, 20 minutes for the cart to reset. And then about 25, 30 minutes later, I came back and did it again. Put the lead back in there, deleted it. About an hour and a half later, I finally bought that one lead, and I called on it, and they didn't answer the phone, and I about had a nervous breakdown. I don't know how to describe the emotional journey I went on, which is funny now. Fast forward 3 years later, I'll be driving down the road. I'll get the email that'll come in from Equus, $600 just came out. And I'm like, woohoo, I just made like $5,000. I don't even think about it, right? But that mental transition of going from looking at that as an unneeded cost versus a necessary investment in my business was a big transition. I've always equated what I do in my business to what if I was opening a restaurant? There's a guy down the street from us, or near where I run a lot of business. He has a hot dog stand. He parks his little van on the side of the road, puts out a little folding Costco table, and has a little Coleman stove, and he sells hot dogs for about $2. And that's his little business. And people pull over on the side of the road and buy a hot dog. And his investment into his business is whatever the costs are for him to sit there all day and to buy the hot dogs and to whatever he spent on that table and whatever he pays for propane and ketchup and that kind of thing. But my favorite restaurant in Seattle is the Metro Grill, where you walk in and you spend $64 on a 12-ounce filet mignon, and a wine steward comes and pairs a $100 bottle of wine with you, with your meal, and you celebrate. And you'll walk out of there a party of two, you'll spend $400 on a meal. And so I guess I have to ask myself, am I running a hot dog stand or am I running a 5-star restaurant? And my mentality is the same. I have to invest in my business. I have to spend the money for the folding table on the side of the road, or I have to spend the money for the lease on the luxury spot in downtown Seattle, and the best beef and the best wine steward and the best chef and the best valet, in order to command a business model that produces the revenue that I want to see. So am I running a hot dog stand or a 5-star steakhouse? And to me, that was my philosophy as I got into this. I remember when I was in college or high school, I got a job as a busboy at a restaurant when I was living in Southern California. It was a Denny's, and I was getting paid $3.35 an hour. That was minimum wage back then. And they charged me $5 for my apron when I started. And I was like, I can't believe this. You're charging me $5 for my apron. And then a year later, they gave me a review, told me everything I was doing wrong, and gave me a nickel an hour raise. Now fast forward to what I do with Equus. I don't look at elite expenses as, oh dear, I had to pay $5 for an apron. I look at it as I'm investing in the best grass-fed beef so I can serve the best steaks and the best 5-star restaurant to my clients. That's the way I look at it. And so, it's just a mentality of, am I building my own business or am I treating this like it's a job? If I'm treating this like it's a job, then yeah, those kinds of expenses, then those become, you kind of look at those as, oh man, I can't believe I had to spend that money. It's kind of like people that don't want to do the E&O insurance. We don't do the E&O. Well, now we can't work America. We can't work America. We're not going to get their 8% bonus every 6 months. I mean, we're 4 months into their 6-month qualifying period right now, and I've already qualified for the first half of 2021 bonus. So I'm on track for a $7,000 bonus with America come, end of June. And then again, I'll do it again at Christmas time. Why would I not spend $35 or $40 or $50 a month on E&O, which then keeps me from being able to go after that America bonus? It's the same mentality. It's like, I need to invest in my business, treat this like I'm building my own business as opposed to I have a job. If I have a job, yeah, oh, how dare I have to spend that kind of money? But if I'm investing in my own business and I go, well, geez, that's low hanging fruit. Why would I not do that? Why would I not put that energy into it? So as I sit here right now, I've got a standing lead order. The ladies in the lead department, the team in the lead department have been amazing to me. And, every week those leads come in, spend about $1,000 to $1,500 on leads a week. You heard that right. $1,000 to $1,500 in leads a week, which produces the kind of numbers that you see. You had asked me to go through some very specific, pragmatic, practical numbers. I have an algorithm. A lot of people say, well, how much do you spend? How can you predict your business? So I went to Target and I got this very expensive whiteboard because I have a very in-depth algorithm calculation that I use to figure out how much am I going to spend on leads in a week to produce a known APV. In other words, if I spend X number of dollars, do I know what APV is going to spit out at the other end? So here's what I've learned. If I spend $100 on leads in a week, now get your pencils out. This is really a complicated algorithm. There's going to be a big formula. We're going to fill this whole board here in a second. If I spend $100 in a week, I'm pretty certain that by the end of the week, I'll have produced, ready? Here we go, 1,000 in APV. That's what I've learned. That's what I've learned. Gets a little more complicated. If I spend 4,000 in a month, that's a terrible four. If I spend 4,000 in a month, what do I think my APV is going to be in that month? Well, let's do all the math. Ready? Here we go. Hold your horses. 40,000 APV, which is the number you just talked about 10,000 a week in submitted business. I've learned that it's basically a 1-to-10 ratio. If I'm spending a dollar, I'm going to get $10. If I'm spending 100, I'm going to get 1,000 in APV. If I'm spending 1,000, I'm going to get around 10,000 APV. Now, here's the other really, really, really cool thing. What does 40,000 APV translate to months 10, 11, 12 when that as earned come in? Because what we start thinking about is we get short-sighted and we say, well, I've got this hard expense. And you go, well, wait a second here. That's my production now. I'm not going to quit this business. When I get out in the future here, I'm going to still have revenue coming in. What kind of just low-hanging fruit revenue am I going to have months 10, 11, 12 if I put that kind of effort into it? So 40,000 APV translates to around 3,300 a month in as earned APV in months 10, 11, and 12. So if today is, what is this, end of March? So the end of the year, months 10, 11, 12, I'm going to have 3,300 in APV as those later clients start paying their bills, 10, 11, 12 months from now. If I'm at a 70% contract, that's $2,300 in deposits. Let's get on the calendar there. $2,300 in deposits. Well, what did I just say I just spent on lead costs? $1,000 a week. So I've just chopped at months 10, 11, and 12 as I'm building my business. I've chopped my lead cost in half. No longer is that money coming out of my pocket. That's coming out of my as earned from work that I did 10, 11, and 12 months ago. Now, let's take this deeper. I'm not going to be a 70% contract 2 years from now, because what happens if I run those kind of numbers? Well, Barry Clarkson and all of his wonderful wisdom, and Bill Martin and all his wonderful wisdom, and you, Rob Jones, and your wisdom, you created a comp schedule that I can get up to 110% in about 18 to 24 months. As earned income at that point is $3,630 a month. I just told you I'm spending $4,000 to $6,000 a month on leads. If I'm at $1,000 to $1,500, at 110% contract, I'm getting $3,600 a month in as earned income coming in. So if I'm spending $4,000 to $6,000 on leads, but I'm getting as earned of $3,600, in my mind, my lead cost in my business is actually really about $1,500 a month to maybe $2,000 a month at that point, as I get to that point. Now, I realize there's a lot of work you got to do. You got to stay consistent. You don't want to start a lead order and then cancel it, 2 weeks in. You got to commit, got to work with your upline, make sure that you pick the correct numbers. I mean, my first standing lead order was 10 a week. And I remember the day I moved it up to 20. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I got up to 20, then I got up to 30. But then the other element of that is then you start hitting the other production bonuses. You get the monthly Equus production bonus of 500 to 1,000, right? You get the comp bonus with Americo, and so I just find that over time, what my learning has been over time is that my lead expense has become less and less, even though it's a significant number, $5,000, $6,000 a month. My lead expense and the overall revenue of my business has become a less and less ratio or portion of my total cost because of the benefits of, now that I've been doing this 3 years, we've got like a foundation under us of revenue that flows in. I mean, I woke up this morning, $374 deposit from Americo on clients that I wrote 8 months ago. Well, I also have a lead order that came out this morning, like $500. So the way I look at it is my net lead cost today was about $130, $140. right? So if we're short-sighted, those numbers become scary. And I get it. When I started this business, I had no money in my bank. When I limped into conference January of 2018, the only way I got to conference was some air miles left over from my previous business. And I stayed at a Hampton Inn when I walked to about a mile away from the venue. I couldn't even afford a rental car. And I sat at that first banquet that night watching all of you guys walking across the stage, personally very frustrated with myself that I hadn't been in this business longer. Now, fast forward 3 years later, we've got a real strong foundation where I just know that's going to be my lead cost for the month. But I also know that I'm going to get back tenfold in APV of whatever I put into it. So that's my philosophy. I hope that that helps encourage people to man up a little bit and go for it. It's okay to go for it.
David Crocker, I got to tell you something, man. I absolutely love what you just shared, and I love that it's you laid it out, man. It's that simple, right? And as we look across Equus, man, there's so many people. You know what I love too? You're a senior sales manager, right? And you're fighting to get to regional manager, and I have no doubt in my mind that you won't get there. And you're also out there producing and investing at that level, right? Wouldn't you know, David, I got to thinking about, I was talking to Barry about this over the weekend, and I said, you know, I think if you're spending, and I'd love some feedback from you on this, if you're spending $500 a week, you're really part-time with us, right? You're not really full-time. I think if you're full-time with us, you need to be at 1,000 a week and fighting to get to 1,500, right? Because what happens then is you create a culture amongst your group, right? You create a culture with your people that says, hey, listen, we're not going to sit around and talk about your 2 appointments you had this week because all you wanted to invest was $68, right?
Right.
We're going to talk about how you've got to put the money in to get it back out on the other side. And you know, it's crazy as I look at the leads, David, that are pouring in at Equus right now. And I think about our leaders, right? I get a lot of people, if I could just be really raw, David, I get a lot of people call and go, man, I can't seem to get my people moving, right? I can't seem to get them to get enough appointments. And I want to go, of course not, because you're not investing yourself, right? You're not setting the example like David is and saying, you know what, I'm committed to $1,000 to $1,500 every week, because here's the big secret. You ready? Equus Nation, here is the big secret. If you're doing what David Crocker does, you can't lose. There's no way you can lose. Right. You're at bat too often. You're going at some point, right? You're going to hit a home run. There's no question about it, because you're putting yourself in a position to win. So, David, I love what you shared today. I love your example. I loved saying, hey, if you spend 1,000, you're gonna basically, you know, write 10,000 in business. And I think that's so true. But thank you for your example and taking time to share with all of us today. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next up, I've got Brandon Hall, right, who is no stranger to any of us, absolute stud in this business. I would dare say he's probably one of the biggest producers in our space anywhere in the country, even outside of Equus. And I had a long talk with Brandon over the weekend too, and said, man, what are you investing in leads every week? And I'm going to let him share that. I don't want to take that away from him, but just for him to share. But listen to this, guys. Brandon Hall so far this year has submitted $291,168 in premium. He's averaging $26,469 a week. Right? Every single week, Brandon, that's where you're at so far. That is the scoreboard for this year. But I would love, Brandon, for you to share with all of our leaders out there, not just producers, people that are leading and building a team, and your thought process on how important it is to make sure that you're personally making that investment and setting the example and the tone for your group. Brandon, I cannot hear you coming through. I think that we can be muted.
There we go. Is that better?
There you go. That's
awesome.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So in the industry that I was in prior to this, we didn't have leads. So I was going business to business, and the customers were generated by me. I was going I was walking from business to business, literally. And I remember every now and then I would get a lead from corporate, and every single time I got it, I closed it. And I remember saying to myself over and over, if I just had leads, this would be awesome. So when I was introduced to this business by Pete Beckman, and he said, you strictly work off of leads, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Are you serious? And he said, you got to spend money to buy the leads. And I'm like, that's fine with me. I'd be happy to do that. And so I remember when I started, and I asked him, I said, well, if I want to be successful at this, how much do I need to spend a week on leads? He said, at least 500. And I said, well, I'm just going to spend 1,000 or 1,500, because if the standard is 500 and I do 1,000, then it's going to work out in my favor. And so in the beginning, yeah, was it a little tough buying the leads whenever I first started? It was, because, the $1,000, you're like, wow, I just put in $1,000 and I didn't see the return yet, because you just got started. But the moment that first deposit hit from an application that I wrote, and it was like an $800 deposit, I was like, wow, on one application, I almost paid for my entire lead bill, and I have many more apps coming in. And so I was like, wow. So the more I spend, the more money I make. And that's been true over time. And so the way I look at it now is, since I've been doing this since 2014, I've noticed that the more money that I spend on leads, obviously the more leads you get, but the luckier you get. You come across those people that you walk in and they got their prescriptions out on the table. They got their driver's license out, and they say, hey, as long as you can keep this under $250, you got a deal. And I'm like, is this a candid camera? Like, are you guys is this crazy, or like, what's going on here? And it's crazy because, okay, let's say on an average week, I personally spend about $1,500 up to $2,000. Last week, I spent $2,690 on leads. And I had one sale that I wrote over this weekend that completely paid for all of that. And it was one of those examples. And it's just because I buy a lot more leads, so I get a lot luckier. I come across those big ones that anybody with a license could have sold. If you could have fogged a mirror, you could have sold probably half the people that I wrote over the weekend. And so it basically creates the luck for you, as long as you're able to put in the work and you're willing to spend the money. So what I did, and I'm going to kind of copy off of what Dave Crocker did, is I actually wrote down for last week that how much I spent on leads. I spent $2,690. I issue paid 20 apps, and that means it was about $134.50 per app that I issued. That's what it cost me for that application. Deposits, I had $19,630 in deposits last week, strictly from sales, no overrides, and on 20 issue paid apps. So that's $981.50 per app. And so after leads and everything, I netted $16,940, which is an 86% profit margin just off taking out the lead costs. Now, obviously, if you take out, car payment, you take out all of the other things, you're probably, if I were to look at it, I would probably be somewhere near 75% profit margin. Okay. I actually went on the internet over the weekend preparing for this, and just to give you a few, the net profit margin for a construction company in 2019 was anywhere from 5 to 10%. For a restaurant in 2019, it was 15%. For retail services, 5 to 8%. Transportation, 19%. And what's crazy is, if you think about opening a restaurant, opening a construction company, opening up a real estate company, all these different companies that you have to open and spend money on, they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, before they see any return at all. And they're hoping and praying that something's going to work out. And here you're able to go buy leads today. Tomorrow you can be in homes running appointments, and you could see deposits by Wednesday or Thursday. If you were to ask anybody who owns a restaurant or a business or a coffee shop or a dry cleaner, if they would like to see their investment immediately returned within 3 to 5 days, they would look at you like you had 10 heads, because they'd say, of course, where do I sign up for that? And so that's why whenever we come in, we're so spoiled because we're able to see it so quickly. And I think that the more that you look outside our business and you see how tough some businesses really had it, especially through the pandemic. I mean, how blessed are all of us that most of us actually did better during the pandemic than we did prior to that. I had my best months during the pandemic. Why? Because I stepped up and I bought more leads than I've ever bought before in my life. My biggest month was, I think, March or April of last year. And I think I paid like $110,000. I think I had deposits of like $95,000, and I probably spent $14,000 that month on leads. And who in their right mind would not spend $14,000 to make 90 something thousand dollars? Show them to me. I mean, anybody would do that. So you got to kind of change the way that you look at leads. If I could get enough leads in my hand right now and spend $5,000 on them right now, I would do it, because I know that I'd probably end up making $30,000 off of them, just based off of my effort, my skill level, and so on. But I think that what we have to stop doing is looking at how many leads that I talk to, how many I book, and how many I sell, and look at the end of and I think those things are important, but I think what's even more important is, at the end of the day, did I net a profit on these leads? And if I netted a profit, I'm able to pay my bills, I'm able to take care of everything. So if I did, and I want to make double that amount, then all I have to do is go buy double that amount of leads. Whether I'm getting, double my return, triple my return, whatever it is. But I think that we can't be so spoiled off of just mortgage protection. We have to expand our horizons on the internet leads, on Final Expense, because at the end of the day, if they weren't successful leads, they wouldn't be created. They wouldn't be there. There's people having success off of them for a reason. And I think that it's because the way that they look at them is, I'm spending this money and I'm going to make more than I spent, so I made a profit. And at the end of the day, that's what makes sense.
Yeah, I think Brandon, as I'm sitting here listening to you, and you said you spent $2,640 last week. For some people, they would go, man, I can't afford, I just can't afford to do that. And my message really would be, you can't afford not to, right? Yeah. I think once you understand the business, Brandon, at your level, or really anybody that's tuned in today, I think once you begin to understand that, hey, if I spend the money, I'm going to make it. Right. I can remember, Brandon, when I started in the business, I remember setting up my standing order. Right. And they said, well, how many leads do you want? I go, I want them all. Right. I want every lead that comes in. And they said, you don't have a limit on it? I said, no, I'll take them all. And I can remember some weeks I'd have a $7,000, $8,000 bill in a week. And you might say, well, Rob, why would you do that? Because the next week I may only get $750 worth of leads. Right. I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity when it was there. And I thought, you know what, if they all come in, it's okay. I'll distribute them out to some of my agents and let them buy them, and they can run some of them. Right. But at the end of the day, I think that if you look at Equus Financial, and I think about Brandon, I look at the quality of men and women that represent us each and every day. And I think if they could develop that mindset, right? If they could think, Brandon, like you think, right? Where they don't put a lid on it and say, no, man, I'm scared to spend more than $250, right? Or I'm scared to do this. You've got to somehow convince yourself to say, you know what? I'm going to take the plunge, right? I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to do whatever I've got to do to go out there and win at this level, because I believe, Brandon, that full-timers here should be spending at least $1,000 a week, right? Fighting to get to $1,500 a week. And that is the recipe to writing $30,000, $40,000 a month. I was doing Brandon over the weekend. I looked at it and I was telling Barry, and I said it at the beginning. I'm like, if you spend $500 a week, you're really part-time with us. And you may say, well, Rob, why would you say that? Because if you think about it, Brandon, and you tell me, you look, if you spent $500 now, according to David Crocker, and I'm sure Brandon, you'd agree, you might say, okay, you should write 5,000 on that, right? I'm going to say you're only going to write 3,000 on a $500 investment. You're going to net with a 75% advance, a 75% issue rate. You're going to net out about $42,500 a year at an 80-point contract. If you just did 500, and I believe that that's super, super conservative. I think if you're part-time, you would have zero issue at 500 a week, probably hitting around that 50,000 mark. But just for simplicity, I think you would make, with all the lead costs taken out, about 42,000 in profit on $500 a week. But then you go to $1,500 a week, and let's say, Brandon, you only wrote 9,000 a week. Okay, would you say that that's super conservative?
Very.
I agree. So you may be sitting there listening today and go, how do I make like 250,000 a year here just on my own pen, build a team and become a regional manager? Guys, if you're investing $1,000 a week, it's you're going to net out probably $152,500 a year. Right. And that's being super conservative. That's basing everything on a 90-point contract, which, by the way, if you're producing at that level, you're moving to that 110 contract that David Crocker talked about very quickly. But once you get to the 1,500 a week, you're over 225,000 a year conservatively. Right. I really think that number, Brandon, is more like 300,000, but just to say it's 2.25 in profit, that's after the leads are taken out. Right. So, Brandon, thank you for sharing. I love I love the example that you said. I love that you just have that no fear, right? You just get after it each and every single week, and appreciate what you do each and every single day. So next I've got Deanna coming up, and Deanna Cooper's another one. I remember when Deanna started with us. Deanna, I remember you coming to my office in Dayton, and I think you were a parole officer at the time. And I remember calling Russ Testman. I go, man, this lady, there's something about her. I swear, I said, I think she could be really, really incredible at this business. And to watch what you've accomplished in such a short amount of time has been remarkable. But Deanna, I'd love for you to share with the Equus Nation a little bit about, you were sharing with me, like, Rob, I was so scared to spend money when I started. And then finally you were able to move past that and to be able to make the money that you make with us, which is multiple six-figure income. I'd love for you to share with Equus Nation for a few moments this morning.
Hi, Rob. Can you hear me good?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for having me on this morning. It's an honor. Yeah, when I first started, obviously at that particular time, I was like a lot of people on the call. I had a lot more time, obviously, than I did money. So I was investing in B and C leads, which are pretty profitable. But obviously, you know, it takes a lot of dialing time. But at that particular time, my goal was, hey, you know, I need to be able to get enough money generated so I can go into a standing lead order and buy A leads. So I was spending probably, I would say maybe $250, the max $500 a week. And to me, first starting out, never having to do any type of business where I had to invest, because, you know, I always basically had a job and, you know, it was strictly salary. That was a lot of money to me, and it really did freak me out. I'm like, oh, I'm spending this money. I'm scared. And then my upline, Russ Testman, was like, well, you're going to have to buy more leads. You're going to have to buy more leads. So as time went on and money started generating, that's what I did. I started going from maybe $250 a week to $500 a week. Then I would move it up to $800 a week. And then I started getting, you know, where I had maybe around $1,000 a week lead bill. But then all of a sudden my income started changing dramatically. So it wasn't rocket science. I was spending more money on leads, but I was also making a lot more money than I was making when I was just putting $250 or $500 in a week towards my leads. So now at this particular time, I'll spend anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a week on leads. And it doesn't even faze me anymore, but it used to, because I was not used to it. But once you spend that money and you see the income that generates from you spending that money, it's all worth it. Just like Brandon and David said, I mean, it is an investment. If you want to make money, you are going to have to pour money into your business. And with this job, it's all about the numbers. So if you've got the leads and you're spending more and more money on your leads, you're going to generate income. There's no way you can lose.
Deanna, if there's, gosh, there's so much I could comment on, but if you were to go back in time, right, and you were to start over again, like, would you have invested a lot more money a lot faster knowing what you know now?
Absolutely.
Deanna, I think we may have lost you for a second, but Deanna, thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate, once again, the example that you set here. And guys, it's interesting. I was talking with, I jumped off of a conference call this morning and I was on a call with a few leaders, and I got done, and it was really this same message, right? And I said, listen, if you want to go out there and lead and build a big team, you've got to be the first one to set the example, the first one to be willing to say, you know what, I'm in at 1,000 a week. I'm in at 1,500 a week. And it was pretty cool, man. I had a couple leaders that reached out to me after the call, and they said, just ordered $1,500 worth of leads, just ordered 1,000. So you may say, man, I love what David Crocker said. I love what Brandon said. I love what Deanna shared. What's my next step? You got to muster up the courage inside of you immediately. And you may say, well, Rob, I don't have the money to do that. Figure out a way to get it, right? If you got to use a credit card, if you got to borrow, I don't know what you have to do, but do whatever you've got to do to move to that level. Because again, what you're going to find out is this: you're going to eliminate so much frustration in your life, right? You're not going to be running around just spending a little bit and like, man, I had another rough week, and it's like you're nickel and diming your business. Just making the decision to make the plunge, invest the money, and get to work, and then see what happens. So I think over the next 90 days, if you guys could get serious, I'm not just talking to producers, I'm talking to leaders out there, right? People that want to build a big team. I believe that you've got to set yourself on fire, right? You've got to be the one that's willing to be in the front line saying, I'm doing it, right? And again, then I think your people are going to follow you because they're going to want to do what you do, right? So, man, I'm excited now. We have our 212 tour in St. Louis today. We've got some of our top leaders there. I know Jared's there, John, Nick, Eric Valdez, Kristen Brockman is there. And I want to turn it, Eric Valdez and I were talking yesterday, and he said something to me. It struck a chord, man. He was sharing about a new agent and the success that they had, but the success came when they were willing to make an investment, right? And Eric, you said to me, I remember when I started the business, somebody walked up to me and put their arm around me, your leader at that time, right? And said, do you want me to tell you a secret? If you don't go out there and spend at least $1,000 a week, you can't be like us, right? You can't be a part of this at this level. And you made that decision, and really it's all history from there and what's happened. So Eric, I'll toss it over to you to share what's happened with the brand new agent that you have.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Rob. I really appreciate it. And yes, we are very excited to be here in River City with Lori Martin and her team, and Kristen Brockman and the 212 tour. Lots of great stuff going on here. But yes, to speak specifically, Kim was able to attract a young man named Vinny Padone, a union guy from New Jersey. He's a tile setter. And guys, so here is a newer agent testimonial of what all of our folks, and Deanna Cooper and David Crocker, as well as Brandon, were talking about. So listen to these numbers. These are real numbers, guys. Vinny Padone, first 4 months in the business, okay? First 4 months in the business, going out, running those B and C leads like we all do, right? When we get started, submitted 44 applications for $39,555. That's an average of 11 applications a month, 2.75 apps a week, averaging 9,800 a month in production, which is what he should be doing if you're running the older leads and you're not as committed as you could be. Now, literally, guys, had a conversation with Vinny just like my leader had with me and said, Vinny, it's time for you to start playing with the big boys. Let's do this or not do it. He's, I'm ready, Eric, let's do it. So we put in a standing lead order for $1,000 a week. Guys, listen to this the last 4 weeks. $38,658 in business, already paid $28,000. That's an average of $9,800 a week, not $9,800 a month, but $9,800 a week. So there's proof in the pudding that anybody can go out there, plug into the system, trust and believe, trust in themselves, trust in the system, and the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. Back to you, Rob.
Eric, thank you for sharing that, man. I love, isn't that crazy? Somebody joined us and Eric says, listen, you got to spend $1,000 a week. What do you know? The first month they do it, $9,800 a week in premium, right? I'm not surprised by it, right? It's just getting committed to the system and setting yourself up to win. And Eric Valdez, thank you very much for coming live with us from the tour. And I am going to toss it over to Barry Clarkson here in just a second. And Barry's going to, we've literally talked for hours over the last week or so is changing the mentality, right? Let's not worry about how many appointments we got. I know it's important. Let's start talking about how much are you investing in your business every week? Are you putting yourself in a position to win? Are you putting yourself in a position not to? It's that simple. And here's the good news. Can I tell everybody the good news? We've got leads pouring in. And by the way, we can create as many leads as we need. We just need people that are committed, that can throw their spear in the ground and go, you know what? I'm tired of tinkering around with this. I'm going to start spending some money and making some real money and building a business. So Equus Nation, I'm going to toss it over to our president and CEO to close us out today.
Okay, Rob Jones, thank you very much. Dave Crocker, man, I loved listening to your examples. Brandon, sorry we lost Deanna. But you know what I heard today? I heard CEO thinking and I heard CEO behavior. And, I've said this to our leadership a lot, probably more than ever, especially in 2021. The stakes have never been higher than they are right now to go out and to build your business, to really expedite, to grow your business exponentially. And so over the last few weeks, we started looking at all of our producers that just seemed to be head and shoulders above everyone else. And what we really, there was one common thread, one common theme, that all of these individuals invested heavily in their business. It is human nature, and I know you're going to smile when I say this, but it's human nature for us to stay in our comfort zone, right? But can you show me a leader in any profession, right? Any athletic team, right? Any business adventure that at some point in their life didn't roll their sleeves up and just say, for once in my life, I want to see what I've got and I want to go for it. I told Rob yesterday afternoon, we were talking about this, and I had gone through in 1993 and 1994, two of the worst years. In fact, I don't even want to talk about it, right? It was so pathetic. And I remember someone introduced me to the Mortgage Protection Lead Program, and it literally just changed my life, revolutionized my business. But when you get in that hole financially, it takes a while to dig out of that, right? And I remembered I wanted to grow my business and I needed capital, and I didn't have any access to capital, right? The only capital I had were on the credit cards, and those things were maxed out. And I had an administrative assistant by the name of Tanya. And I remember I wanted to get $50,000, right? Because I felt like I needed that capital to start growing my business. And probably about 12, 13, 14 minutes from where I'm sitting right now, there was a community bank, in fact, called the Community Bank of Forest. I think they ended up getting purchased by a larger bank. And I remember putting this proposal together. And I took it out to the banker, and I remember going up, and getting on that elevator and going up 2 or 3 floors and sitting in front of him as nervous as I've ever been, talking about why I needed $50,000, right? And what I was going to do with that in growing my business. And he said, Barry, I'm going to need a proposal and really need something to show to the board of directors. And I don't know what Tanya and I put together that day, but probably a week later, I get a call from a banker. His first name was John, and he said the board of directors approved it. And I remember taking, which to me was all of the money in the world, right? And putting it on a line. And that was really the onset. That was the start of us growing ultimately, maybe even what we have at Equus today. I don't know, right? But I think back about that. And, I think there's something about fear. I think there's something in our human spirit about going for it when there is an opportunity for loss. I just think that's part of the equation. I think if you look in America today, if you look in business, if you look at Equus, and you look at those people in their company today that make a 7-figure income or, hire, or just make a bunch of money and have a lot of business success. And then maybe you look at those people that make 50 or 60 or 75,000, and you look at them and outwardly, right, they look the same. A lot of them dress the same. A lot of them are about the same age. They're educated the same. And you look in and you say, what's the difference, right? What's the difference in this person that's gone out and have great business success? And I can tell you, after being a part of this for 40 years now, and working with literally tens of thousands of individuals, that difference is this. That difference is being willing to go for it. That, all of us have heard, you never outgrow your confidence in this business. And I just challenge our company, right? And I wanted to, I was listening to Rob, and I was listening to David and Brandon, and listening to Deanna. And one of the things that I think have really just hit the leadership of our company over the last 30 days is I'm blown away, and I sincerely mean this. I'm blown away by so many of you, right? I've never been a part of anything that even remotely, that I've witnessed the success of the individuals that wear our Equus Blue uniform. And, I just feel like we are in this time that we can go out and double and triple our company. When we started this thing back in 2016, we made a statement, and I feel stronger about that statement today than I did in 2016, that the way we were going to judge ourselves, right? Our scoreboard, right? Our report card was going to be not by how much premium that our company did, because at the end of the day, none of that matters, right? What was going to be our scoreboard were going to be the success of the men and women that represent Equus Financial. We call that the agent's company, and we believe that, right? You cut us open, that's who we are. And we just believe that we can have more success than we've ever had. These are tough conversations. I got to tell you something. For 5 years, I've been very reluctant as an individual to get on here and talk about you investing heavily in your business. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't know what you have inside of you. I don't know that, right? But I do know this. There's no shortcuts to success. There's no shortcuts to going for it, right? Are you going to be scared? You better be. Was Barry Clarkson scared in 1995 when he walked in that bank? Scared to death, right? I couldn't even suck any oxygen, man. I was hyperventilating, right? But see, it's putting yourself in that position when you know that there's no quit inside of you, right? You know there's no quit. See, only you know that. You can't measure someone's heart, can you, right? But I want to tell you this. I challenged Kristen in our lead department 3 or 4 months ago. I felt like that 2021 was shaping up to be maybe a year that our company had never experienced before. And if you go back and you look when we started this thing, right? I mean, most people's nemesis in the sales business is they love what they do, right? They feel pretty passionate about it. The problem is they can't get anyone to sit down and listen to them. So they wake up every single day and have to go out there and cold prospect, right? I mean, that just makes me want to throw up thinking about it, right? And so we made a commitment to our lead program. You know, one thing, Dave Crocker and Brandon Hall, I loved about your presentation. If you know me, right, I'm kind of a tightwad, to be honest with you. I hate to admit that lie, but I kind of am. And we, every single week at Equus Financial, because we feel so strongly about this, we invest weekly, not monthly, but weekly, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? We invest over $1 million every 30 days in producing these leads. And you know why we do that? Because I can literally, I want you to look here, because you'll never see anything more predictable than our business. If you come in here and follow Bill Martin and you follow our training, we've been doing this stuff for me personally since 1994. I can literally look at the mail that we dropped last week, and I can tell you with just in a couple how many applications we're going to have 5 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now. That's how predictable our business is if you're coachable, right? If you'll listen, and if you have desire and you will go to work. See, there's no substitute for desire. There's no substitute for heart, right? There's no substitute for being down and just wanting to go out there and change your whole life financially for you and your family, right? And so one of the things I love about our company, it's the thing I love most about our company, we have a legitimate business opportunity. You can go do that. And you go out there and not only help you and your family, you can change the lives of thousands of people we represent the single most underserved market in America today, middle income. You've heard me say this. I've never seen anybody have any longevity in this thing if you didn't have a heart for the consumer. And so we're on a crusade, and I'm going to call it exactly what it is, and it's to serve middle income America. And while you do that, you can go out there and build an incredible business for yourself. So leaders, thank you for being on today. Equus Financial is ramped up. We're geared up. We have kind of gone out there and done everything we can financially to be able to go out there and double and triple and quadruple our company. And we know to do that we've got to have thousands upon thousands of people just like that are watching me right now that are tired of people out there blowing a bunch of smoke, right? We coach hard here. We have a theme here that whether you're part-time with us and you're a personal producer or you're like some of our leaders that run big agencies and big companies, you are your own CEO. We treat you like that because that's who you are. And I just look forward to many of you taking that next step in business, right? Investing in your business and making your mind up that this is going to be your bell curve year, right? This is going to be the year that you set the standard. See, don't worry about what other people think. Put those blinders on. Put those blinders on and just make your mind up that I'm going to go forward and I'm going to see dadgummit just what I do have and how good I can be. Equus Nation, have an incredible week this week. There are lots of things going on, lots of opportunities for you to plug in to us and go to our website and see where the 212 tour is going to be next. They're in St. Louis today. But as we proclaimed and we kind of took an oath among ourselves on January the 8th, when we did our virtual conference that what we were going to focus on is operating individually and as a team and as a company at 212. You know what I mean. Equus Nation, have a great day. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing and talking with all of you soon. Thank you for being with us today.